boy, this game. This game has been a tough one to stream, with only a little of that toughness being as a result of the game itself. A lot of questions out there about what Outriders is, isn't. I've dumped in about 35, 40 hours now into the game, hitting tier 12, 13-ish in the expeditions and all that kind of stuff, so not quite at the very end, but like 90% of the way there. Let's talk some Outriders today. Outriders, third-person looter shooter with RPG elements. As someone who is not a stranger to the genre, I feel pretty qualified in talking about the game. Where do we start? Story, I guess. The story of Outriders is you land on planet Enoch after years and years of traveling through space after leaving Earth because Earth is just screwed. You're one of the first to land to scout the place out. You go venturing for a mysterious signal that you found in the forest, but there is a storm called an anomaly that kills a ton of people. Not you, though. You get some powers from it. You're thrown into cryostasis because you're injured from another event that happens shortly after, and then promptly forgotten about for 30 years. You are discovered 30 years later with the world split into multiple factions, all fighting over very limited resources, trying to figure out what happened. You then meet up with a scientist who claims that they have the capabilities of potentially finding out what this mysterious signal was or is, and then you're off to see the wizard, the horrible Wizard of Oz. I had fun with the story. I was interested in where things were going, the mystery behind what's going on, the things at stake. Overall, enjoyed it. As I usually say with anything related to story, I'm not a great judge of dialogue. I know a lot of people were not the hugest fans of it. I personally don't look into dialogue in games that much. Sure, there's a few moments here and there that, weren't spectacular, but it didn't really bother me because I felt like I got the tone that they were going for. Maybe some parts that weren't supposed to be exactly that funny were a little funny, but yeah, I don't take story and dialogue very seriously. I'm just along for the ride. Something I kind of appreciated was that Outriders was not afraid to just straight up kill characters immediately after they were introduced. It happens at the start of the game. It happens in the middle of the game. It happens at the end of the game. You think a character is ready to just join your team and bam, dead. End of story spoilers that I want to touch on a little bit coming up next. Skip to the time on screen to avoid them. Like now. Kinda wish the final boss fight itself was a bit more compelling. The final boss ends up being someone who you discover about 90 to 95% of the way through the game after they kill a rather important character to the story. And while the boss fight was pretty fun, I wish I felt like I had a bigger stake or a bigger emotional reaction to the boss that we fought. Yeah, they killed an important character, but it was kind of predictable that this character was going to die in the way that they did. You see it coming from a mile away, at least I did. And so the final boss just ends up being a fight against a big baddie related to the major reveal of the game, but who isn't really seen until the very end of the game. But there's no build-up to this particular enemy. That being said, again, the fight was really fun. I enjoyed the mechanics, all the skills and dodging and all that you had to do. Although a good chunk of the fight is similar to the boss almost immediately before the final boss. Overall, I enjoyed the experience of the story content, the overall plot, but I am someone that doesn't really think too deeply about what twists and turns might be coming up. I just like to enjoy what's in front of me for what it is. What else? Well, this game needs a lot of polish on the technical side of the game. I'm talking janky cameras, character models kind of look out of whack. The sound balancing feels very not good, with dialogue occasionally being really low volume, with certain abilities having ridiculously loud, overpowering, deafening volume, completely disturbing the flow of sound in the game. There's some occasional audio desync too. I feel like the music has had almost zero impact on the game at all, but I'm not sure if that's because of poor mixing and sound issues, or if it's because of the music itself. The first week has had a lot of crashing and instability. We had server issues for the first couple of days, although those seem to have subsided considerably since that first weekend. Oh man, there's a lot of work that I feel needs to be done to really clean this game up from that side of things. Fortunately, these are all things that can be fixed. They don't involve heavy design decisions or redesigning core components of the game. The problems aren't exactly content-related problems. We'll talk about that a little bit later. These are things that can be fixed over the next month or 2 or 3, however long it takes. These aren't going to be core issues with the game that severely hinder its capabilities as a game. But man, do I really need to emphasize the sound part. Please, People Can Fly, the devs, if you don't know who that is, you need to get the sound stuff under control. I'm going deaf using blighted rounds. It's unbearable and obnoxious, especially when the best Technomancer build revolves around keeping this horribly, deafeningly loud buff active as long as possible. Speaking of that, as I was writing this video, Outriders has dropped some of their notes for their first patch of the game. Seems like it'll be fixing some of the bigger crashing issues, which is good, a restoration of items for those affected by a horrible bug that emptied your inventory, some connection-based fixes, and some balancing of abilities. Which brings us to gameplay. I am willing, or was willing, to forgive the non-polish of the game because the gameplay and looting experiences were good. I want you to think of Outriders not as a Destiny experience, not as a Division, an Anthem, but more of a Diablo-type experience that happens to be a third-person shooter. That is the vibe they're going for here. Swapping abilities in and out, getting tons of gear, and tinkering to find the best builds possible so that you can slay the hell out in World Tier 15 level stuff. Outriders does not play like the Division, Anthem, Destiny, Borderlands. Yeah, I know those are all looter shooters, I get it, but none of them play like each other at all. Outriders is maybe 60-40 on the guns to ability ratio scale in terms of how often you're using each. Abilities matter a lot in Outriders. They are not just a bonus thing that you have, they are core to the gameplay. Alright. So, actual gameplay. You got a bunch of skills, you can use 3 at a time, you can swap them whenever you want, and you can swap your talent points whenever you want. Full access, no gates, no barriers, nothing like that. Awesome. The game wants you to play aggressively to succeed, and that is shown by the ability to heal based on using and killing with your skills. Pyromancer, kill with your abilities to heal. Devastator, close range kills will heal you. Technomancer, dealing any damage heals you, which, in my opinion, makes Technomancer probably one of the easier characters to play, even if they are potentially less interesting due to their supporty nature. It's going to be a very rude awakening for me when I start another character in terms of my healing capabilities, I'll tell you that much. I have heard that due to other characters' more strict healing capabilities, that getting into higher world tiers can be tougher, as if your killing potential with the things that you need to use to kill, to heal you, aren't capable of killing things easily, you can't heal, which means you spend a lot of time in cover, which isn't really that fun at all. The game has a cover system. I rarely used it. I don't really suggest using it that much. It's there if you want it, but it seems like the enemies that you're fighting against use it considerably more than you ever will, and the game plays a lot better if you almost basically ignore it. The gunplay in the game is fine, although I played on PC and I've heard console is a little less appealing when it comes to that. Sorry, I'm not really a game reviewer. There's not going to be any console experience in this video. I wouldn't say there's anything remarkable about the third-person gunplay experience, but I wouldn't say that it fails in any major spots either. Everything just kind of works the way that it needs to for the most part. However, as of the launch of the game, it does seem like each one of the classes has a very simple and effective build that revolves around very similar abilities called blank rounds. For Technomancer, this would be blighted rounds. All of the builds focus on making sure that these buffed rounds stay enabled on your character for as long as possible, because at least for the Technomancer, they seem to triple or quadruple your damage output, if not more, which can then be combined with other perks and skills to push this even further. Build diversity is going to be something that needs addressing in the near future, despite the fact that this is not a games as a service game, which is something I'll be discussing a lot later in the video. The first balance patch is coming, which is addressing the rounds-based abilities and will be nerfing them down a little bit. It seems like the devs wanted infinite rounds to be part of the experience at the highest levels, but right now they say things are a bit too easy with those builds. I do wonder what higher tiers of difficulty are going to look like after these nerfs, as I didn't see any buffs to other abilities in the notes, although perhaps this first drop was only part of the patch notes and not the whole thing. I'm not really sure. But the rounds-based builds seem so overwhelmingly better than anything else that I do wonder what the game will look like after this adjustment comes in. People Can Fly, the developers, did an amazing job with making sure that the looting experience in this game is really, really good and simple and fun. I'm talking basically every aspect: modding, crafting, auto-looting, inventory management, dismantling, selling. They made sure that getting items wasn't a cumbersome experience, something I hope a certain other game will take some lessons from. You don't want any more blues? Turn your auto-loot up to epic. Done. You want to dismantle or sell all your blues at once? One button press. Done. Getting trash drops were not a big deal at all, thanks to the incredibly easy marking and dismantling system in the game. They keep the annoying parts of the looting experience to an absolute minimum while maximizing the fun parts, which is getting loot, modding it, and tinkering with your build. Clean and simple. Love it. And I'm going to be ballsy here and say that Outriders has set a new standard for how this experience needs to be handled going into the future for other games of its kind. The perks and mods are really fun as you hit endgame. Early on, it's not nearly as exciting because they're not going to give you the OP stuff that early on. Lightning storms, anomaly explosions, status effects. Every time I found a new perk or a new legendary, I almost immediately wanted to see how much damage it can do. Now, is every mod good for everything in the game? No. But fortunately, you can just dismantle a legendary, you add the mod of that gun to your collection, and now you can throw that mod onto almost any gun that you want. Fantastic. So what's there to do after the campaign, the post-game, the end game? What's there? Well, you gain access to a bunch of expeditions, which are essentially more missions with the lightest of mechanics and story context behind them. Usually you just kind of stand in a spot and defend, if that. The main thing here, though, is just killing the waves and waves of dudes that'll be spawning. It is 99% gameplay, 1% exposition. I don't know, maybe 97.3, so around there. These missions scale up in difficulty, rewarding more loot the faster you do them, with the tier of the mission determining what level of loot you get. Obviously, hitting the gold time is the best to maximize your loot drops. These scale up to tier 15, where you will then unlock Eye of the Storm, which is the final expedition. The higher tiers demand much more refined builds of your characters, which is where a lot of the theory crafting and build tinkering will hopefully get to shine. There are no raids, there's no social hub or anything like that. The post-game is all about turning yourself into the best possible killing machine. However, due to the expeditions giving loot based on beating a certain time, the only builds that really matter are damage-focused builds. Devastators can become unkillable tanks, but without a way to draw aggro, this build is left in the dust due to the need to move quickly to get the most loot. Living a long time and being unkillable is great, but the game isn't about a battle of attrition, it's speed-based. The same can go for Technomancers and their support abilities. This rules out potentially a lot of builds that could be interesting to the game because speed is king. I personally don't mind having some loot chases based on speed, but the game could use some endgame goals that allow for more builds to shine without hindering your ability to get the most amount of loot possible. Is there a ton of longevity in this? Depends on how much you like the game. I'll be honest with you, as soon as I beat Eye of the Storm, I think I'll be good. I might level another character if some balance changes happen, I might try for some solo stuff, but otherwise, I think I will have gotten what I wanted to get out of the game. If you really like the game, you have 4 classes to go level up and absolutely kit out. I don't know if any DLC are planned or game updates that add more stuff to the game are planned or anything like that. So let's get to the elephant in the room. I streamed almost every minute of this game on my Twitch page, twitch.tv/Datto. And through my days of streaming this, one question was constant. Datto, is this worth $60? Another common statement was, I don't think this game will have a long lifespan, although I phrased it much nicer than other people did. Let's talk about Outriders' plan for the future. As of right now, there is none. As far as I'm aware, there is nothing concrete, there is nothing set in stone. The developers have said that if they do have DLC for the game, they would be self-contained stories within the game. So sort of like how Borderlands 3 handles things. Few new guns, I imagine, higher challenge tiers, stuff like that. Here's something everyone should know. Outriders is not a live service game. Unfortunately, it has gotten caught up in the web of live service games because so many of its predecessors have been live service games. So people naturally are going to make the association that because this is a looter shooter and historically looters are live service games, that this game must be a live service game and therefore must be competing with other live service games. No. I was surprised at how many people do not really know the differences between live and non-live service games. So let's break that down real quick. Destiny, Division, Anthem. These are all live service games. They are games that are or were designed to be around for a long time, constantly being updated with new content. MMOs, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, these are live service games. A non-live service game would be something like God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Dark Souls, Crash Bandicoot, Sonic the Hedgehog, Super Mario 64. You know, games. Like from the olden times, where you just bought a game, and then you played it, and you beat it, and that was that. There's no service element, you just played it. That's what Outriders currently is. It's a game that you will get, you'll beat the story, maybe you'll grind up the expeditions to do the final one with your buddies, maybe you'll level another character if you're up for it, and then when you feel done, that's it. It's over. And you move on. I'm begging you, stop comparing this game to Destiny, Division, Anthem, etc., etc. Borderlands is probably the closest to Outriders, but the games play nothing like each other. That's the only thing in common these games have, is that they have guns and they're looter shooters. That's it. Again, the developers have said that if the game is successful enough or they want to make DLCs for the game, they would consider it. But as of this video, Outriders is a game that you play and then you're done. As far as I know, this is not a game designed with a ton of longevity in mind. I don't think you should expect to get 100, 150, 200 hours out of this game unless you're someone trying to cover every aspect of it for a YouTube channel, or if you enjoy the game to the point where you're leveling one of every character. I'm expecting 40, 45, 50, pushing it 60, 70 hours for myself before I move on. But back to the big question. Datto, is this worth my 60 precious, hard-earned dollars? And my answer is, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you like about video games. Although, if you're here from my channel's subscription feed, I'm guessing you like some aspect of Destiny, which means there's a chance you'll like this. Do you like third-person shooters? No? So then don't buy it. The amount of people coming and asking me questions that they already answer in their own question was concerning. Hey Datto, tried the demo, didn't like it, not really into third-person shooters. Is this worth getting? Well, I mean, it seems like you already answered that in your question. My best answer for the worth it question is try the demo. If it seems like something you might be interested in, go for it. The main game plays a lot like the demo, except you get more skills and better guns down the road. If you have friends playing it, that's a bonus. Solo play might not be as exciting or a bit slower since the game is more unforgiving to solo players thanks to no ability to res yourself if you go down. If you have Xbox Game Pass on console or cloud, just try it out. You know, why not? You have access to it, just play it and see if you like it. I would recommend Outriders to people who are interested in playing a looter shooter that has Diablo vibes, but isn't going to completely consume your life. And I give it bonus points if you have friends to play with. Again, I'm guessing this is going to be around a 40 to 60 hour experience if you plan on going the distance. I'm talking full endgame builds, Eye of the Storm, tier 15, the works if you have a team. Solo might be a bit tougher to pull off. If theory crafting and looking for effective builds, even if there is only one good build per class right now, is up your alley, give it a shot. If you wanted to wait for all the kinks to be ironed out and have it go on sale or something, that's totally fine too. If you're a solo player, I'd say it depends on what kind of solo player you are. If you're very motivated and you want to try to do the hardest stuff in a game by yourself, or if you want the highest difficulty settings, I think there's something for you here. If not, then I would probably hold off until a sale happens if you want to just mainly experience the campaign, since I think you'd only be playing about 50 to 60% of the game's offerings if you only did the campaign. I've enjoyed my time with Outriders thus far. I suspect my time with it will be a lot like my experiences with Borderlands 3 and Monster Hunter World. I'll get to the end game, I will max out a character with the top tier items, I'll do the hardest stuff in the game, maximum builds, maybe mess around with an alternate character for a little bit, and then I'll put it down. I'll get around 50 to 60 hours of gameplay out of it, and that'll be it. I am willing to forgive the janky nature of the technical side of the game because the pure gameplay aspect has been enjoyable. But that being said, those technical issues really need cleaning up. Very, very badly. If you enjoyed this video, a positive rating is appreciated. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.